Hi. Okay. I have a task for you, and here is your to-do list. You are going to draw a house in 1-point perspective. Your house must have steps, a door of some sort, okay? Windows, siding, a road, or some sort of railroad track to show me some depth, a fence, street lights, telephone poles. Everything, it says or telephone poles. We got some ors here to give you some options, okay? I would like you to add more than what's on this list. Trees, mountains, birds, anything to make this exciting. Your roof could have shingles on it. Your door, could have fancy windows with curtains. Your windows can be very fancy, but I want you to make sure everything is kept in perspective. I'm going to start you with the basics. You can follow along with me and pause at any time to get going on this. Or if you'd like, you can watch the whole entire video and then create your own scene of a house in perspective. But I wanted to show you some things to get you started. Okay? So I'm going to move this list and we're going to start with a piece of paper, not lined, clean white paper. Now, hopefully this will show up under the video camera. But I'm going to draw myself, a horizon line this time. Instead of an eye level line, it's a horizon line. So a line going across our paper, and truly it will be a horizon where we have a sky and some land. When I look up at my monitor right now, it looks like it's really crooked, but it also looks like my paper is crooked. And I think that's the whole thing going on with the camera up above. Okay, it's doing something to my angles. So know that I am not horrible at making straight lines or anything like that. It's just an illusion that you are seeing under this camera. I keep tipping it and it's like no matter what I do, I cannot get it straight. So yeah, see the top of my paper is level, but the bottom is not. So something's going on with the camera. Okay, I like to stick with my vanishing points over to the side. I don't like putting them in the middle because then it doesn't give me a whole lot of room to draw things. So I always put it on one side or the other. Okay, to start my house is the most important thing. And when we draw a house, we're going to start with a basic house shape, kind of like, in kindergarten, when you drew a house and you had a square, okay, and it had a rooftop like that. It's the basic house. Now, if you want to get fancy and make, porches and all that kind of stuff, oh, that's awesome. You are going to get a much higher grade. You can do some research looking online at houses in 1-point perspective and see if you can find some other things, okay? Do not copy them. Know that I do reverse image sketches, reverse image searches, and I use platforms available to me to see if there is your original artwork. So I would like you to take some progress shots along the way on this one to prove that it is yours, okay? Or you will lose points for not showing me progress. So let's start over here on the side. Let's start with our house. And if you looked at our list, we had to have windows and doors and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to draw this pretty big. Let's start with like a 3-inch square. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So there's my square, approximately 3 inches. Let's measure it, see what it is. Oh my gosh, not bad. 3 by 3 by 3. So I've got a 3 by 3 square. If you end up with a rectangle, it's okay. It's all good. It's going to work. We're going to make a point on this house, okay, a rooftop, like I showed you a minute ago, but it has to cross over my horizon line. It's a lot easier to make a roof if you do it that way. So here's the thing. I could just take my ruler and draw a triangle, but I want to make sure that my peak is perfectly centered on this. So to do that, I'm going to make an X inside my square. So there's my X, so that I can find the center of my X, and then I can go straight up from there to find the center of the peak of my roof. Does that make sense? Like this line is straight above that X, okay? So from there is where I'm going to make the peak of my roof. And now I'm going to spend time erasing everything inside. I wish I knew how to speed up the video for you. I can make videos, but I'm not good at that fancy editing stuff yet. Cleanly erasing everything aside. So now I have this house shape and a dot and some land, okay? So now I'm going to give my house some depth, just like our Kleenex box and everything else that we've been doing. So going from this dot, I'm going to tip over, tick, 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 and I'm going to draw myself a line to give myself some depth on this house. Same thing on this edge. Draw myself a line, and then the last one from the top. Draw myself a line, okay? I didn't quite make my point. Very hard to draw under camera, okay? So now the edges of my house have a diagonal and then a vertical line. So I'm going to slide this back, do the best I can to keep my diagonal straight and not tip my ruler, just slide it back. And then the side of my house, and I'm going to slide it to the right, okay? And I'm going to erase all my extra because I get really confused if I don't. More erasing. So now I have a house shape. Let's clean up some lines. Okay? So, wow. I go back to my checklist. House in 1 point perspective. Pretty simplified house. Very basic house. Like, right now this is an F because I don't have everything on the list. But as far as the house goes, that's a C because I can do much better than that. I can make a porch, I can make windows and doors, I can make siding, I can make shingles, I can make a chimney. There's so many things I could do. But it does have to be in perspective. So let me show you some things. Okay? What about windows? Let's put some windows on the side of this house. Okay? I think I'm going to decide I'm going to put my door here like an old-fashioned schoolhouse or something, like from the 1800s. And I'm going to have steps going up to the door, and I'm going to have some windows on the sides. Okay? So think back to the Kleenex box when we did the sentence strip, all right? I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to draw myself some guidelines on here to give my windows lines on the top and the bottom, okay? And then I'm going to draw 2 vertical lines. That is a big window. Maybe I'll bust this up. Let's break this into sections. That's looking better. Let's break this up into several windows. Yeah, now I've got 3 windows on the side of my house. Those are still pretty big windows, okay? Huge windows on the side. Let's put a door. And we want steps going up to this door. I'm going to tell you right now I struggle with steps, but I can get the basics down. So let's start with a door. Wow, look at my ruler. My ruler, my straight edge here is about the size of what I want a door to be. I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm going to use this because anything on this front side of this building is just going to face me. I don't have to worry about it being in perspective. So I'm going to draw myself a door. Okay, that looks so big, it looks like it could be a double door. So I'm going to make it into a double door. You know, like I have 2 doors here. We'll put a bar between them. Yeah, I like that. Okay, a double door, the kind where you push, and then maybe you got some fancy windows in here. Something like that. Get something fancy. Or you could do a curved kind of a window. Okay, it's this kind of stuff that's going to get you the A grade. Fancy this up, okay? I'm just showing you basics. You make this fancy and use a ruler, no sketching like Janie's doing, okay? So now, okay, when we come out of a door, we don't just like fall to the ground. And our doors are not really level with the ground if you think about it. Even our own homes, we at least have 1 step. We might have several steps. We might have a staircase. We might have a ramp coming down, but never is a house, or any building for that matter, built flat on the ground, because then when it rains, the water would come rushing into the doorway, right? So let's draw it. I believe it's called a threshold, okay, or something that like you could stand on. So let's like make ourselves a porch. So coming out of this forward, I drew myself a line darker so you could see it. I'm going to draw some lines going back to our vanishing point here. 1, 2. Okay? Notice they kind of project out this way. And then I'm going to draw myself a line going across. I didn't make that one come out very far. Okay, so this surface comes out at us. Now I'm going to go down, okay, like make a step on this, like a riser. Down, down. And then I'm going to go across. So there's like step number 1. Now I need another step because I'm still not on the ground. So same thing. Line. Line. Horizontal. Notice I'm using my ruler to draw every single line, no winging it. So when I was drawing these windows in here and sketching them in, I would hope that you would go back and clean it up and make some linear lines in there with the ruler, okay? Now, this part, we can make it where you run underneath it, where like an animal or a cat or a dog could get under there, or we could build a wall here, right? And then have this line coming down to the step. Oh, wow. That's not working very well. I don't like that right there. That looks funny to me. I could do another step. I could go down, but I think it'd be too tall. So since I'm not liking this situation that I have going on here, let's cover it with some bushes. And some more little bushes. Okay. What about a railing? Let's make a railing on here. Let's make some bushes on this side too. You know, we got to have some symmetry. Some little bushes. Okay. Let's make a railing. Let's make a post going up, 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 up. And then I'm not using a vanishing point at all. I've just made myself a rail. Make a curve on the ends. Okay. Something fun to help people get up to the steps. Okay? But there, now I've got, going back to my list, steps, a door, and some windows. Now, going back to these windows, we can make these windows tiny. We could make a second story. We could make panes on them. We could put curtains on them. We could put glass on them. Okay? We could give them some depth. Depth, you say? Let's give them some depth. So you would have a line like this. Up into it. Okay, so you kind of see like, I didn't draw that one very well. You see like the bottom, like the window ledge inside the building. Okay, you could do something like that. There's some glass. You could have some curtains hanging up above. You could use some colored pencils if you have it and gussy this up. You can make drapes hanging down, okay, inside the window. You can do stuff like that. We could put something up here. We could put a window up here. We could put a square window there. Anything we draw here would just face us. You could make this into a little church and make a cross. You could put a cross up here. You could put a little bell. You could put an address, okay? I live at 814 is my address, 814. I could do a little address thing. But there are so many things that I could do on my little house, okay? If you want, you can make it into a tree house and board it up, but even so, I want to see a building in 1-point perspective. Okay? Siding. Let's talk about siding because that's on the list. What I mean by siding is some kind of lap siding. Everything on the front would just face the viewer in 1-point perspective. But everything on the side of this building in perspective would go back to the vanishing point. Okay, So there's siding on my house, and now this would go back in space this way. So going to my dot, lining up with each of these little lines here, each of these sides would go back to the dot. Same with your rooftop, because your rooftop is on the side. If you wanted to add shingles to it, they would go back in space to the vanishing point. Far from perfect, but I don't want to spend hours drawing in front of you. I'm no Bob Ross for that matter. Something wrong here. My line must have moved. Yep, my ruler moved. Okay, so as you notice here, the boards look farther apart here than they do here. Okay, they're smaller, these squish, because as they get closer to the dot, they of course get closer together. Here, if you wanted to make, shingles on your roof, they would tip. They would go along with that vanishing point going back in space. Okay? People say to me, how do I draw a chimney? How do I draw a chimney? Oh, I want to put a chimney on here. Okay, so if this is my rooftop, you do the same thing. Draw yourself a vertical line going straight up and down. The bottom of our chimney would go to the vanishing point. The top of our chimney would go to the vanishing point. And you would more or less draw yourself a little cube and or rectangle. This is a big chimney. And then this one would be straight. And it would lap onto the other side of the roof. And we would probably have something like that. And that little diagonal that I drew, I just kind of, it should go with the side of the roof. That's what it should do. So like this line here should be mimicked right here. I was pretty close. Okay? So there's a little chimney. You could have smoke coming out of the top of it. Okay? So what else is on our list? Windows, siding, a road, or railroad tracks. Okay, so a road, hey, let's just use this vanishing point, and let's draw ourselves a road. Well, that was pretty easy. You could draw the dashed line down the middle. You could draw yourself a vehicle driving away from you. Oh my gosh, you could have roadkill. You could have potholes, anything you want. A fence, street lights, telephone poles, things like that. A fence. We could have a fence on this side. We could have a fence on this side. You could have cattle gate, fence, something like that. Let me just show you a couple things about fencing. Your lines do have to swing out far away from your dot. So they have to swing way out for them to work out. In fact, I probably should go even more than I did. But your fence posts would slowly come straight up and down, okay? As they get closer to us, they're going to get larger. So these fence posts, let me straighten out my paper. My fence posts here would get wider and taller, okay? And they would get teeny, teeny, teeny as they went into the distance. So this could be like barbed wire, or I could make slats on it, by giving it some width. I don't know what kind of fence you want. You have some grass, okay? Fence. If you wanted a picket fence, you would have a bunch of just tons and tons of little lines on it. But your tops would all line up and your bottoms would all line up. Same with power, electrical poles, okay? I would draw myself one pole to start and I would put some lines on it. Like this is a power pole, like the power lines that we see, okay? And then if I did several of them going from my vanishing point, I draw myself a line, and that's where it would determine where the next pole would be. This one goes behind the house, and I would have another one there. And then, let's see, I could have another one way back here. Those are like power lines, but then my lines would like droop like this, right? Going back in space. That's what I mean by power lines. Same thing with street lights. You could have a line, and then it would come out with a light at the top over and over and over again. Okay? So those are the things that are required in your list. Here's another one that was drawn a long time ago, and here my steps are better. You've got street lights, but see how the street lights, all the tops of them are even. And then they have a little curve and a light and a curve and a light, and my lights get tinier. Okay? Here's mountains in the background. What else did I do? I did a little tower up above. Like this is like a little one room schoolhouse, and it has like a bell tower or something up above. And here I decided to make a train track instead of a road. Okay? So those are some options. Now these are basics. This is very simple basics of what is expected of you. And I wanted to make a video to help you because you're stuck at home. You know, it's harder for you to do these things on your own without guidance. You know, nobody can just be self-taught on perspective. So let's make this into an A by adding things like brick, by adding things like shingles, by adding grasses, cows. You know, have some fun with this. Have aliens coming down beaming up a cow. Have some evergreen trees. You know, add some things that you know how to add to this. Show me that you understand 1 point perspective. Shoot pictures, add a little more. Shoot some more pictures, add a little more. Okay? Not expecting shading, but of course you could always add some if you wanted to. You know, things like the tops of steps, shadows on the ground, cast shadows from the sun. You know, if you want to do that kind of stuff to make this fun to look at, you could do that. You could add shading, like the sun is setting. If the shadows were going this way, your sun would be over here, like it's sitting on the ground. But if you're going to involve light with this, you know, maybe you should add some sort of shading or some color if you have access to color. That's up to you. So basics, what's required. But then after that, I want you to gussy this up with fine detail if you want that A. Take pictures, upload them.